Ahead on NewsWatch, Donald Trump tackles the media for the first time since being elected. See what happened when reporters badgered him about Russia. Plus, fireworks fly between a leading Republican and Trump's choice for Secretary of State. What Rex Tillerson had to say about Vladimir Putin and Israel. And the Bible behind bars. See who's helping these prisoners break free and launch a life into ministry. And thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. President-elect Donald Trump says it is, quote, fake news, a disgrace, and phony stuff that didn't happen. That was his response to news reports Russia had obtained compromising information about him. In a fiery news conference, he blasted the report as a tremendous blot on the record of the intelligence community. As Jennifer Wishon reports, the White House News Corps is in for a fight.
For President-elect Donald Trump, his relationship with the media is complicated at best.
It's very familiar territory, news conferences, because we used to give them on a almost daily basis. I think we probably maybe won the nomination because of news conferences.
He awoke to learn BuzzFeed had published an unverified report full of errors that suggests Moscow has incriminating evidence against him. Team Trump piled on.
The fact that BuzzFeed and CNN made the decision to run with this unsubstantiated claim is a sad and pathetic attempt to get clicks.
You know, I have long been a supporter of a free and independent press, and I always will be. But with freedom comes responsibility.
It's a sign of the relationship to come between the future president and the press. Trump doesn't believe the mainstream media treats him with respect. He thinks they're in the tank for Democrats and don't appreciate the American movement he's tapped into.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, not you. Not you. Your organization's terrible. Let's go. Go ahead. Quiet.
His staff has promised to shake up the White House briefing room. Despite this love-hate relationship, Trump wasn't rattled at his first press conference since winning the election. He says Russia is responsible for the cyber hack of the DNC, but says that's not where all the focus should be, since other countries like China hack the U.S. too. He's appointing a special committee to come up with ways to make America's cyberspace more secure in his first 100 days. Trump also answered how he'll separate himself from his vast business holdings. Dozens of folders hold documents he's signed to turn his companies over to a trust to be managed by his two sons.
And I hope at the end of 8 years I'll come back and I'll say, oh, you did a good job. Otherwise, if they do a bad job, I'll say, you're fired.
While in office, Trump will also donate profits from his international hotels to the U.S. Treasury. The president-elect is also moving forward with one of the greatest responsibilities of his new job, appointing a new justice to the Supreme Court.
It'll be a decision which I very strongly believe in. I think it's one of the reasons I got elected. I think the people of this country did not want to see what was happening with the Supreme Court.
Now he's looking forward to his inauguration and celebrating with the Americans who put him in office.
Because we have a movement. It's a movement like the world has never seen before. It's a movement that a lot of people didn't expect.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Trump Tower, New York.
Russia was at the center of Rex Tillerson's confirmation hearings in Washington. Tillerson is up for Secretary of State. He was a chief executive at ExxonMobil and had extensive business dealings with Russia. Some say that could hurt his chances of being confirmed. But Newt Gingrich tells CBN News those dealings were strictly business and should be thought of that way.
I think Tillerson is so impressive and has done such a great job overall. I mean, as a head of the Boy Scouts, as the head of one of the largest corporations in the world, he is so smart that as he talks to the senators, they're going to be comfortable that he's, you know, he doesn't have a good relationship with Putin like their friends, you know, at the Rotary Club. He had a good business-like relationship because they wanted to do business in Russia. And he was able to work with them in a very practical, hard-nosed way.
Confirmation hearings on Trump's nominees will continue next week. Gary Lane reports Wednesday Senate hearings for Rex Tillerson and Jeff Sessions were contentious.
Rex Tillerson, President-elect Trump's nominee to be the next Secretary of State, was on the Senate hot seat Wednesday. His grilling came not from Democrats, but Republicans, like Marco Rubio.
Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal? I would not use that term.
Mr. Tillerson, do you believe that Vladimir Putin and his cronies are responsible for ordering the murder of countless dissidents, journalists, and political opponents?
I do not have sufficient information to make that claim.
On the annexation of Crimea, Tillerson said Russia's action was illegal. They took territory that was not theirs. He said Russia should have been challenged at the border with Ukrainian troops supplied with U.S. defensive weapons. His concern for the future?
Russia today poses a danger. Our NATO allies are right to be alarmed at a resurgent Russia.
Tillerson said the U.S. and Russia won't likely be friends, but America needs to move Russia from being an adversary to a partner at times. On Israel, Tillerson said the nation remains America's most important ally in the region. He called the recent UN resolution against Israel not helpful, one that undermines efforts for peace talks to continue. Tillerson said he found John Kerry's recent speech on Israel quite troubling because of its attacks on Israel, attacks that undermine the Israeli government. Does he support the internationally accepted idea of a two-state solution, Israel and the Palestinians living side by side?
I think that is the dream that everyone is in pursuit of. Whether it could ever be a reality remains to be seen.
Nearby at another Senate committee hearing, it was day 2 for the nomination of Senator Jeff Sessions for U.S. Attorney General. In an unprecedented move for a sitting senator, New Jersey's Cory Booker testified against his fellow senator. Booker explained why he opposes the Sessions nomination.
Senator Sessions has not demonstrated a commitment to a central requisite of the job, to aggressively pursue the congressional mandate of civil rights, equal rights, and justice for all of our citizens.
A member of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission disagreed.
Senator Sessions' approach to civil rights is consistent, is legally sound, intellectually honest, and has an appreciation and understanding of the historical bases for civil rights laws.
Today's confirmation hearings are expected to be less contentious. Appearing before Senate committees will be James Mad Dog Mattis for Secretary of Defense, Dr. Ben Carson for Housing and Urban Development Secretary, and Congressman Mike Pompeo for CIA Director. Gary Lane, CBN News.
This week, more than 250 leaders with the Christian United for Israel are in Washington to stand up for the Jewish state. It is a direct response to the United Nations' recent resolution against Israel. CUFI is pushing lawmakers to back bills that slam the UN anti-settlement resolution and force President to move the Israeli embassy to Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the UN resolution shameful, and CUFI agrees. Founder and Chairman John Hagee had a clear message for Netanyahu.
Mr. Prime Minister, Christians United for Israel has answered the call tonight. All 3.3 million of us stand with you and stand with Israel and stand with the Jewish people.
2 CUFI-backed bills blast the resolution and would cut in half embassy security across the world until the U.S. embassy is moved to Jerusalem. The Obama administration has abstained from voting on the UN resolution, which allowed it to pass. Muslims are turning to Christ in large numbers across the Middle East, according to the Christian Post. The report says Muslims are turning to Jesus Christ and are viewing Christianity as, quote, the religion of freedom and amid persecution in their country. The Voice of the Martyrs of Canada said, quote, there are thousands upon thousands coming to Christ. There are now an estimated 366,000 Christian believers in Iran, which is up from only 500 in 1979. And church leaders believe that millions can be added to the church in the coming years. A painting by a high school student has set off a battle in Congress. It depicts an image of a pig in a police uniform aiming a gun at a protester. It is hanging in the Capitol along with hundreds of other works of art that were chosen in last year's Congressional Arts Competition. But Congressman Dan Reichert of Washington is asking the architect of the Capitol to decide whether or not it should be displayed. He says the painting is in clear violation of the competition's rules and is offensive to law enforcement. Democrats argue the painting represents free speech. A GOP lawmaker wants Tennessee tags to say, "In God We Trust." The bill, sponsored by State Representative Bill Sanderson, would require the State Revenue Department to redesign the license plates. This is not the first effort to push for recognition of God. Last year, a bill was vetoed that would have made Tennessee the first state in the country to declare the Bible as its official book. Coming up, they are hardcore criminals, but the message of Jesus Christ is changing their lives. See how a unique partnership is giving these inmates a second chance. They're maximum security inmates, and they're earning Bible degrees behind bars. That's a result of a unique partnership between Texas Prisons and Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. As Shirley Aaron recently discovered when she visited, the goal is to reform the nation's biggest prison system by softening hardened criminals, one heart at a time.
30 miles out of Houston, Darrington Prison houses some of the nation's most violent offenders.
This is a maximum security prison, and we have all custody levels here at this facility.
But behind these walls, hardcore criminals are transformed into messengers of hope, thanks to a program offered by Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary.
It's designed for undergraduate students to receive a Bible college degree to prepare them for pastoral ministry.
The first 2 years, student inmates take general education courses, including English, math, and science. Then comes 2 years of theological training and pastoral ministries. The idea for the seminary came in 2010, when Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Senator John Whitmire visited Louisiana's Angola prison, where a similar Bible program helped change the prison's long culture of violence.
Angola was the bloodiest prison in America. Since the Bible College has come there, they've reduced their crime inside the prison by 72%. So the idea is basically to change the culture by changing the heart with the message of the gospel.
Serving a life sentence, 54-year-old Troop Foster found his life radically transformed after time in solitary confinement.
I was thinking about suicide. I was thinking about ending my life. But I remembered the Jesus from my childhood. So I got down on my knees and I cried out to God, please, if you're here, you're going to have to carry me. And from that point forward, he revealed himself to me.
Foster, a former gang member, became one of the seminary's first graduates. He now ministers to other hardened gang members.
And I went back to started walking those lines and just sharing my testimony with the men back there. And some of them were real standoffish at first. But when I explained to them, look, brother, I've been in that cage. I spent 8 years where you're at, and I do it in love. And I've had men come to know Jesus Christ.
Brandon Warren serves as a seminary professor.
The demographic that we have, some of these guys, it's been 20 years since they were in school. And when they were in school, it wasn't that great of an education. So I teach how to write a research paper, how to write a book review, memorization skills, study habits, things like that, to try and bridge that gap.
Nearly 60 inmates have completed seminary here at Darrington Prison. And while academics are the major focus of the program, it's the spiritual transformations that make all the difference.
Our purpose is to not only give them a theological education, but to pass on from faculty member to student our heart for ministry, for the Bible, for the love of Jesus, and for the love of their inmates.
Inmate Vondre Cash is serving a 45-year sentence. Despite not being very religious, he felt drawn to the program.
I was searching. I had doubts about Christianity before I came to the program. I had doubts about religion, period. But when I came to the program, the love that the professors showed for me, the care and the patience that they showed, and not only them, but also the other students.
That love led Cash into a more intimate relationship with God. As a graduate of the Bible College, he now shares the hope he found with others.
Being able to dialogue with men on a spiritual level, talk with them in Bible studies, talk with them in prayer circles, that is rewarding in and of itself.
Warren, who once served time, says the program's impact is far-reaching.
This is one that happens all the time. Guards asking our students to pray for them. or coming to them, about some biblical question they have about the Bible or Scripture. So that sort of thing has happened from the beginning.
Warden Mark Jones also sees the difference.
It helps calm down what's going on here at this facility. And even when these offenders graduate and when they go to other facilities, it helps out a lot.
Graduates are dispatched to prisons across Texas and live among the general population, where they hope to encourage fellow inmates to change their ways. Foster, who will be almost 80 before he's eligible for parole, says it's his life's purpose to serve others, whether in or outside prison walls.
Some people graduate college and seminary and they go to North Africa or Czechoslovakia or Russia with their mission field. This is my mission field. And it's a mission field I've already adapted to the culture here. This is a mission field I know the language, and God's called me here.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News, Rocheron, Texas.
The women who helped launch an American into space will show you more about the new box office hit, Hidden Figures. Moviegoers recently propelled the NASA drama Hidden Figures to the #1 spot at the box office, finally bumping the Star Wars movie Rogue One. Hidden Figures tells the true story of 3 black women, all mathematicians, who were key to the early success of America's space program. Here's some of the highlights from this uplifting historical film.
You have identification on them?
Yes. Yes, sir. We're just on our way to work. NASA, sir.
That's something. I had no idea they hired.
There are quite a few women working in the space program. I learned about these women when this project was offered to me, and at first I thought it was fiction.
I knew Hidden Figures was going to be one of the best roles so far for me in my film career because of the tenacity, the courage, the freedom, the fearlessness of this character.
If you were a white male, would you wish to be an engineer?
I wouldn't have to. I'd already be one.
These women just understood each other. They were, to me, a 3-part harmony.
How in the hell did we find ourselves in second place in a 2-man race? I refuse to believe that the Russians are smarter than us. Find the genius among those geniuses.
What they did had a lot to do with where we are in space and science today.
Whose work is that?
Catherine Goebel, sir.
You did the math.
I look beyond. This woman is real. She's not fictional, and I want to do her story right. Colonel Glenn's launch coordinates.
I have told you this. Computers don't author reports. Fix it.
Those are my calculations. My name should be on it.
That is not the way this works. I am playing a character in this who, for several reasons, not all of them based on race or gender, but he's got some issues with the woman that Taraji P. Henson plays. She is a woman. There is no protocol for a woman
Okay,
attending
I
these
get
meetings.
that part, Paul.
They were treated like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th class citizens.
They've never had a colored in here before, Catherine. Don't embarrass me.
In comes a computer, Catherine, played by Taraji P. Henson, and she knows her math.
Pastor mentioned you're a computer at NASA. Pretty heady stuff.
Yes, it is.
They let women handle that sort of... That's not what I mean.
What do you mean?
I'm just surprised at something so taxing.
Mr. Johnson, if I were you, I'd quit talking right now.
I mean no disrespect.
I will have you know, on any given day, I analyze the manometer levels for air displacement, friction, and velocity, and compute over 10,000 calculations by hand. So yes, they let women do some things at NASA, Mr. Johnson. It was the 60s, everything was segregated. There was racism, no doubt. And she was a woman, but she didn't let any of that hold her back. It was like she had every obstacle stacked against her, and nothing could stop her.
I need a mathematician that can look beyond the numbers. Math that doesn't yet exist. Before the Russians plant a flag on the damn moon.
You have someone?
Catherine is the gal for that. I don't know what a better first, producer credit I could ever receive.
You've been gone for 300 hours.
Was Mama gone for 12 and a half days?
No, but it felt like it.
It felt like it to me too.
These women were, moms and single moms in the 1960s, early 1960s. But what they were responsible for would go on to change the history of this country.
Shall we launch this rocket? We're putting a human on top of a missile, shooting him into space, and it's never been done before.
By putting stories out there like this, some little girl in some region of the world will know that she has value.
Generations to come will love and appreciate this because they're seeing a shining example of someone who did it when the conditions were not favorable.
I hope that people are inspired to never stop dreaming.
In the fight of our lives, people.
5, 4, 3, 2.
They just were ordinary women living their lives, being the geniuses that they were, and look at what they accomplished.
It's time for your Thursday Thankful, and today I'm thankful for forgiveness. Father, thank you for your endless supply of forgiveness. Your grace and mercy are beyond amazing. It's a lesson we should never forget. With that word, make this a thankful Thursday. And that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the story you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make this a thankful Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.